You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible. Folks, Bill Cosby was once known as America's dad. He has marked his one-year prison anniversary this week. He is serving, of course, 3 to 10 years behind bars for drugging and sexually assaulting Andrea Constand in 2004. He was convicted last year, was moved to general population at the maximum security SCI Phoenix facility outside of Philadelphia earlier this year. Of course, according to folks there, he's become somewhat of a role model for the fellow inmates, and someone who has visited him frequently over the last year is Andrew Wyatt, his spokesman. Andrew, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered. First and foremost, there was a video that was posted that was on his account, on his Instagram account, you and Ben Chavis recently visiting him. And so was that a request by Cosby for Ben Chavis to visit, or did Ben want to visit Bill Cosby? How was that arranged?
Well, Roland, thanks first off for having me on your show. Mr. Cosby, this was Dr. Chavis' third visit with Mr. Cosby. Mr. Cosby had requested for Dr. Chavis to see him again. He wanted to talk to him and thank him for what Black Press USA has been doing to put out the truth and facts of the trial and things that the mainstream media did not want you to hear at the trial, to hear what these, even these 404B witnesses, accusers said at the trial. And only Black press was there. Black radio, National Black Radio wasn't there. So he wanted to thank Dr. Benjamin Chavis for standing his fight, supporting him, and to talk about this new revolution. You know, Mr. Cosby has always said that the revolution is in the home. But right now, he's saying his new revolution is in SCI Phoenix. That's his new home. And what he's getting to do to change the lives of these young men who are up for parole, being released and going back into their communities, and showing them that they can remove the DIS from disadvantage and talk about the advantages that they have as Black men, being better fathers, better husbands, better community leaders.
And when you talk about what he is doing, so what exactly is he doing there in prison? What is his daily life like?
Well, Mr. Cosby gets up at 3 a.m. every morning. He's blind, so his body just tells him just to get up, and he might get up at midnight and he'll tell the officers to wake him up at 3 a.m. and then he exercises in his cell. He's up to doing 300 leg lifts, 300 crunches, and then he goes to breakfast. He's in a veterans area of the prison for inmates who served time in the military. Of course, he did 4 years in the Navy, and he spends his time speaking with guys. Guys come to his cell, but what he was asked to do roughly about 6 to 7 months ago was start participating with 2 organizations that are in the prison called Man Up and Men of Valor. And he speaks to these men. It's 300 plus men. He talks to them about the umbilical cord, that you came from this umbilical cord, and how can you abuse women if you came from an umbilical cord? Your mother, you came from her. You didn't abuse her. And just various topics that they talk about, and they requested him. A matter of fact, the warden, from my understanding, Tammy Ferguson, she sat in on one of these mentoring sessions, and after it was done, she spoke and said, "This is a miracle. This is a living miracle," because you know, these guys, they respect him. They love him. They listen to him. They even talk about his appeal and how he should not be there. And that's what he's doing, and that's how he's passing by the time. You know, of course, Dr. Benjamin Chavis, who did 7 years in North Carolina prison with the Wilmington 10, he understands. And he told Mr. Cosby, he said, "You're that political prisoner that I was. And I want you to stay mentally focused and mentally strong and keep fighting this revolution." And that's what Mr. Cosby is doing.
His family has not come to prison to visit him. And my understanding, that's because Bill Cosby made it clear he did not want them to come see him in prison, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he said that when he left home, he didn't leave home with a number. He left home as Bill Cosby, and he equated it to going off to war. He's at war. He's at war with Montgomery County in the state of Pennsylvania, and he said when you go off to war and fight for this country, they don't send your family in to see how you're doing because that's a distraction. And he wants to stay focused. You know, look, he's been in there a year. He received 3 to 10 years, Roland, and in 3 years he could be up for parole. So he could be up parole September 25th, 2021, but only if he attends sexual violent predator courses. And he met with the counselors last week, and he told them, it looks like I got 9 years left of this unwanted vacation.
So 1 second. So you're saying that in order for him to be eligible for parole,
Right.
he has to attend sexual predator classes. First of all, how often are those classes?
Sexual violent predator
courses. Sexually violent predator courses,
mm-hmm.
and he refuses to attend those courses.
Right.
So he is willing to serve the full 10 years by not going to those courses.
Look, Mr. Cosby maintains his innocence, and as he stated, so many guys get out of prison and they get out and they get parole because they admit guilt when they're not guilty. And once they got out, you look at guys like Jack Johnson, and the list goes on and on. It's hard to get that removed once you get out, and you then say, "Yeah, I was innocent. I said it to get out." He's holding his ground. Mr. Cosby's presumption of innocence was stripped away when they allowed the 404B witnesses to appear in that trial. And the 404B strictly states in black and white that they have to have similar interests with the accusers. One of the women, Lisa Loveland out of Nevada, said that I can't remember if he drugged or raped me. I don't remember anything. I just believe something happened. And they let her be a 404B witness. Janice Dickinson said, I lied. In my book in 1983, I stated that Bill Cosby blew me off and didn't have sex to me. She said, I just made it up because I wanted a paycheck. And knowing Janice Dickinson's history, you still let her be a 404B witness. Juror number 11 stated, Roland, that Mr. Cosby was innocent before the trial ever started, and the judge refused to remove him. The juror 4 person, she's neighbors to the court reporter of the court who was in the courtroom of the trial. So, and you let the trial go on. So, Mr. Cosby knows that he's innocent, and he feels that this is a heavily funded violation against him, and he feels there's corruption against him, politically motivated. When this district attorney ran for office and said, "If you elect me, I'll go after Bill Cosby," so he feels that people did not want him to have a voice in this election cycle. You look at what's going on in America. Mr. Cosby has been fighting for all people rights, humanizing them for years. That's what he used his celebrity for. They did not want him to be a voice in America, and they saw him as a threat. So when you see someone as a threat, especially a black, powerful, wealthy man who's putting his money where his mouth is and making the community better, making this world better, this is what you do to them.
I'm going to have questions from each one of my panelists. First, I'm going to start with Teresa Lundy, and then Dr. Niambi Carter, and then, of course, Mustafa Ali. Teresa, your question for Andrew Wyatt.
Actually calling you from Philadelphia. So, Bill Cosby is their president to my community. So one of our questions is, have you done enough as it relates to community support in order to help Bill Cosby? Is there anything else? I know he's serving his time, but, as we look at related cases, Weinstein, President Donald Trump, is there something that, we can do as influencers, as community supporters? Because, again, like you said, there's so many holes in this case. What can we do to help in this effort as it relates to appeal?
Look, call the Superior Court. Call those panel of judges. They gave us 35 minutes on August 12th, our attorneys, for oral arguments. They interrupted 15 minutes after 30 minutes. When the prosecutors got up there, the prosecutors talked for 25 minutes, no interruptions, and then they helped them out and said, hey, you forgot to mention this case. We just hope these Superior Court judges, and I think the pressure needs to be put on them by the community. Look, Mr. Cosby was let down by the community. This is a guy who was giving money to black colleges before there was a Tom Joyner Foundation, before all of these people decided to do something. He gave $100 million, over $100 million, putting kids through college from the black community, people of color. And no one showed up to the trial. Pastors were afraid. People were calling us and said, look, we're afraid because, we don't want people to strip us of our money, and we don't want people to take this way. People were fearful. They didn't know where this was coming from. Political leaders who he have helped over the years were afraid. His friends was ostracized because they said, look, we don't know where this is coming from. We feel that when he tried to buy NBC, that this is what happened. This is what started this. When he gave the pound cake speech, people are just fearful. And I feel like the black community, we have to stop letting white people tell us who to hate, when to hate, and how to hate our own. And white people like Gloria Allred and her daughter Lisa Bloom, they go after only black men. They use a Hitler-style tactic to take down black men and black men legacies. And we have to stop that. We have to stand up for our own. I just feel that, the public, the community, the world should be calling these Superior Court judges and saying, no, give him a new trial. No, he should not be in here. Calling the governor of Pennsylvania. It shows that's politically motivated when Josh Shapiro, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, writes an amicus brief, friends of the court, saying do not let Bill Cosby out. So I think that's what has to be done. I think people should mobilize. You look at what Pennsylvania and Philadelphia is doing for Meek Mill. And I'm glad they're doing prison reform. But this is not about Meek Mill necessarily. They're using Meek Mill as the poster child for prison reform because now the prison system is affecting their own. It's affecting suburban kids. So now we'll come to Meek Mill he's the poster child. But where will they be for Meek Mill 10 years from now? And that's what we have to think about.
Before I go down to Carter, first of all, just a correction there. I mean, Lisa Bloom and Gloria Allred, they've actually gone after non-black men. So, there are a number of cases. So, I understand your point, but the reality is there are cases, individuals who they've sort of gone after. Dr. Carter, go ahead.
There's so much to unpack in what Mr. Wyatt said, so I'll be as tactful as I possibly can. In that, in that this charge that this is all a political conspiracy for an attempt to buy NBC over 20, maybe even 30 years ago at this point, is hard to swallow, even the claim that he's a political prisoner, in part because of the things that Bill Cosby has said over time about some of the same men he's actually in company with on an everyday basis. So my question is not so much about this case, but has his views about the people that he would call disposable, largely, right? I mean, part of that pound cake speech was saying that the people who end up in prisons and other places are not us, right? They're not us. They're failures because their communities have failed them, or because of bad parenting, or because of poor choices. So now that he finds himself in much similar circumstances, despite his wealth, how have his views on criminal justice or criminal justice reform evolved, given his current circumstance?
That's a great question. Mr. Cosby and I discussed the pound cake speech a couple of days ago. And as he stated, he would not change anything in that speech because what he was saying is more relevant today than it was at that time. When you look at what's going on in the black community, I'm a product of the black, I grew up in the projects in Bessemer, Alabama. And I see what's happening in the black community. You see, the drug dealer going around picking up the 15-year-old girl, and he's 20-something years old. But because he's paying the mother's light bill, it's okay, and people turn a blind eye to it. I think what Mr. Cosby was trying to say to people is that we have to be responsible for ourselves and responsible for our community. But what I really love what he said, Andrew, they said that I was airing black people dirty laundry. He said, well, right now, we're in here together with our dirty laundry. And my job now in this place is to change these young men so they could go out and be better fathers and better men. So, and then you talk about NBC 20 years ago. Let's think about it. Mr. Cosby was on Nixon's enemies list as a communist because he refused to perform at the White House, along with Jane Fonda, Dick Gregory, and others. He was watched by the FBI. So how is it 40 plus years ago he was raping white women under the microscope of the FBI, watching his every move. His shows was canceled. He's not new to a conspiracy or a scandal like this, and the family is not new to this. And that's to answer your question.
Mustafa?
Mr. Wyatt, I'm going to put on my legal hat real quickly and just ask a retrospective question. Is there anything that you would do differently as counsel now that you've had some time to go through this process?
Not counsel, spokesman.
Spokesman.
Well, you know, even as a person who was responsible for hand picking his attorneys, and that's why I do and private investigators. You know, what I probably would have done a little differently is not chosen a jury out of Montgomery County. You know, I would have went outside of that county. That county was heavily populated for the district attorney, and I feel that those jurors, their minds were already made up. When they got there. That's why juror number 11 said before the trial started, and we had a witness who was in the room with the juror, a black female, to come and into a hearing with the judge and state what this white man said, that he's guilty. So let's not waste our time and just end this trial and vote him guilty. I think it was just a tainted pool. The fix was in. But, you know, Mesereau did the best that he could do under a system. Look, the Me Too movement was founded by a black woman, but it's really the Becky movement. The movement was founded, Me Too was founded several years ago, but when a white celebrity female posted #MeToo regarding Harvey Weinstein, that's when it took fire. So, you know, when Becky claims it, it's true. And that's what Gloria Allred and her daughter, Lisa Blasphemous Bloom, was able to do, was bring the white women out and then sprinkle a little pepper in there and make it believable with a few black women who you don't hear or see from anymore.
Will you, the question here is, will Bill Cosby do any interviews while he is in prison? Is he allowed to do so? And will he sit for one with Roland Martin Unfiltered or some other media outlet?
No, we talked about that, Roland. He's not inclined to do anything right now. Matter of fact, I went to see him today because I wasn't planning on going to see him today, but Mrs. Cosby called and had not heard from him, and she was concerned. And so when I got to the prison, I rushed over there and got there. They got me back there, and it was only a couple of minutes left for visitation. And he said, look, I've been in the office. The deputies brought me in the office. Someone showed up, a reporter, saying that they had information that I was going to be murdered today. And so, but that person was just trying to get in to get a story, maybe a freelance reporter. I don't know, those type of things happen all the time, but you know, the prison's very respectful. He's very respectful of the warden and the people there because they're just doing their jobs. But at this present time, he has not said that he's going to do an interview. But if he should, Roland, I would be the first to call you to get you in there if he's going to do that. And I just appreciate your support just for getting the facts out, you know, because right now the only people that showed up at that courthouse and all Mr. Cosby ever asked for and all he has ever asked for and will ever ask for is just for the truth and facts of this case to be put out and for people to go and read. And black media was disappointing because the only black media that was there for a trial this big for an iconic figure who is still considered, if you watch his social media, as America's dad, what he gave us and how he changed all our lives. For them not to show up and Black Press USA to be the only to show up, and Dr. Benjamin Chavis made sure that his reporter Stacey Brown was there every day, it meant a lot. And I just hope black media would do that, continue to do that, what you're doing right now.
But I do know that, if I'm correct, that the reporter for WURD in Philadelphia was covering the trial, correct? And that's a black-owned radio station.
Not every day. Not every day.
Okay.
We're saying, but the masses, the mainstream, like the black radio shows, they were not there. TV One was not there. You know, that's all we're saying. The black community needed to hear the facts because this was a witch hunt fund and then a lynching funded by white people against Bill Cosby because he's so powerful. But in his words, they have made him more powerful than ever because the black men that he was trying to reach, as he stated, they're right here with me now, and I'm getting to reach them.
All right, then. Andrew Wyatt, spokesman for Bill Cosby. We certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Roland.
All
Have a
right.
great day.
Thank you very much. And also, on another note, news came out just yesterday. Bill Cosby lost a lawsuit where he has to pay $2.75 million to his to one group of his attorneys. He had challenged the California arbitration award that required him to pay $7 to $9 million in legal fees to LA-based law firm Quinn Emanuel. But again, now, of course, with the ruling, he has to pay $2.75 million to that law firm. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, November 7th through the 11th, we'll be in Cabo, Mexico. That's right, for the Luxe Jazz experience. Gerald Albright, my alpha brother, will be one of the folks who will be performing November 7th through the 11th. We'll be broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered there that Thursday and Friday. We want you guys to come out for an amazing 4 days of a wild experience. Talk about music and food and libations and spa and golf, all that good stuff taking place at the Omnia Day Club, Los Cabos, nestled on the Sea of Cortez and the celebrity playground of Los Cabos, Mexico. It's going to be an unbelievable jazz getaway, folks. Again, crazy time we plan on having there. Lots of different mini concerts, daytime excursions, including the Spirit of Jazz Gospel Brunch and Jazz Sunset Cruise. Confirmed guest, comedian actor Mark Curry. As I said, Gerald Albright, Alex Bouillon, Raul Madon, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Donnie McClurkin, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, and Ronnie Laws, Ernest Quarles, and more. For more information, go to lifeluxejazz.com. That's LifeluxeJazz.com. Again, we're going to have a great time. I want to see you guys there. Again, November 7th through the 11th. While everybody else is freezing all across the country, we're going to be having a good time there in Los Cabos. And so I'm looking forward to do it. So again, lifeluxejazz.com. Get your packages now, book your airfare. Let's have a hell of 4 days. Grown folks, you know how we do. All right, folks. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.